About 1 week ago, Isach Tchiroma Bakari actually issued a firm warning to the President Biya government in Yaoundé. He urged the president to release all those that have been arrested during the post-election protests, or we don't know what was supposed to come after. But here we are. Within hours, the government began quietly releasing detainees, including minors, who had been illegally arrested and held incommunicado. Yet, as we speak, hundreds more remain behind bars. Many are now being charged with serious political crimes such as hostilities against the homeland, insurrection, rebellion, and revolution. And we've seen a latest statement by Human Rights Watch calling on the government of Cameroon to ensure that those who have been arrested in the post-election protests should be released immediately. We also have civil society actors that have been reacting. For instance, Project C is estimating that thousands of people have been arrested and are currently being detained across the different regions of Cameroon. And also Stand Up for Cameroon indicating that about 257 people, including 33 women, are currently being held at the New Bell Central Prison in Douala, the economic capital of Cameroon. So today we are going to be having a very interesting discussion, asking some of those key questions that you back home, you watching at this point in time, you've been asking over the past few days. What is the latest? What is happening at the moment? What is the way forward? And what is the right path to take going forward? We are going to be having this discussion today with Eric Chinje, who is joining us live. Hello, Mr. Eric. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your time and for the great work that you've been doing so far.
Well, thank you so much, Mimi. And it's always a pleasure to be part of the Mimi Mefo Info Show. Huh? I always love these moments of interaction with you and your audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. I know that your plate is full and you've been busy moving up and down, holding one meeting to another, but you still create time to have this conversation and inform Cameroonians, which is really good. The people need nothing now more than information. So the first discussion that I wanted to have with you was to just find out, a lot of people are asking, what is happening with Isach Tchiroma Bakari? What is the latest? How is he doing? Is he okay? Is he safe? Is he secured where he is? So I wanted to find out from you, as someone who's been working closely with Isach Tchiroma Bakari's team, what is the latest that we have on Isach Tchiroma Bakari so far?
Well, Mimi, first things first, he's doing very well. The Tchiroma is doing very well and finally getting to have a bit of rest, which is what he has not had in a while. When you're trying to stay away from a regime that's determined to bring you down at all cost, you know, you have to be alert all the time. I think, you know, now he's in a good place and working daily, working every day to be ready to hit the ground running when he eventually gets back home. And our hope is, again, God's time is the best, but I think that time will be sooner than later. I can say that.
Yes, yes, without releasing a lot of information, because the safety, like you say, is the most important thing for now. But people are also interested in the strategy. You know, people want to know what is going to be happening from now going forward. What next? What steps should they be taking? So what would you tell them? Because they've been asking a lot of questions as well in that regard.
Well, let me say this, Mimi. This is this battle. The battle for the soul of Cameroon is a people's battle. Mr. Tchiroma is the people's leader. But you cannot have a leader without the people, and you cannot have, if you have people without a leader, it's unlikely that they'll get to their destination. So we have a partnership here that has to endure for us to get to the goals we want to get to. This should be very clear. It's a partnership. So Tchiroma will do his part, and the people have to do their part. I can tell you now that the president-elect is working very hard, and this has to be said, and I hope people understand it. He's working, he finds himself in a new dispensation where he should have been leading the country from the country itself and with the national institutions that are in place to guide Cameroon to the future it deserves. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think that I lost you at some point.
Yes, and it's
yes. So you just
it,
ended. Your last sentence was leading the country to where it deserves.
Exactly. So he needs to get back to the country. He needs to be sworn in, and then, as I said, hit the ground running. So in the meantime, there's a lot going on. One, he's preparing his team, a team that includes many people in the country right now, essentially people in the country. But he cannot at this point disclose that team for reasons that should be obvious to all of us. So he's working on that, looking at profiles, talking to people, engaging with leaders on the ground and outside of the country. He's also working extensively with friends of the country, institutions, international institutions that are sympathetic to the cause of Cameroon. Across the planet at this time, everybody wants to see a country that deserves to be amongst the top performers on the continent. I don't know of anybody I've met who's not in Cameroon who does not wonder what's going on and who does not look forward to having Cameroon take its place within the international community, within the global community of nations. So these people, the president-elect, Mr. Tchiroma, is working with various groups of nations and of institutions to have a clear roadmap based on current facts that will help move the country quickly to the destination it deserves to be on. So there's a lot of work going on right now. Right until a few hours ago, I could say, there's been, they've been working and reworking not only the program that will be implemented when he gets into office, but also who will be responsible for what. So all of those things are being taken care of, and he's extremely busy and regularly in touch with partners who are eager to see him take office.
Interesting to know that a lot of groundwork is being done, and that is also reassuring for Cameroonians who have been curious and asking a lot of questions. But we've also seen some people also saying that it is time to move on, and look onto something else because, victory has already been stolen and there's nothing that can be done about it. What would be your response, Eric?
Leadership is not about reactivity. It's not about emotionalisms. It's not about desires that have to be met now or sooner. Or leadership is about timing. It's about programs. It's about understanding where you want to lead the ship of state in this wide ocean of occasional turbulence, of occasional um, high waves. It's understanding how to maneuver that ship of state through troubled waters. That's what it is. It's not about a ship that sees land and everybody's screaming, that's land, let's get there. No, but understanding how to maneuver the ship to the port. And that's exactly what Mr. Tchiroma and his team are doing. They are looking at every aspect of what it will take to create jobs in Cameroon so that we do not have young people, young graduates from schools and universities, walking the streets unsure of what tomorrow would bring, unsure of whether they can feed themselves in a land of plenty. He's looking at what will be done to regenerate our our industries. He's looking at what it will take to rebuild the state corporations that this country had once and was proud of. We're looking at try traveling by air from Cameroon 90% of the times, 90% of the times, maybe 95, you'll be getting on a foreign airlines. There was a time when in Cameroon, the primary source of travel was Cameroon Airlines. You first went to that before you looked at what was happening with the others. Could I travel to Europe on other airlines? Cameroonians inevitably looked to Cameroon. There was a time when most of the goods that came into the country and away from the country to international markets came on, were transported on Cameroon shipping lines. There was a time when in Yaoundé or Douala, you didn't have to go on, as for people going to work from various parts of these cities, didn't have to go on motorbikes. They went on, you remember, Sotuk, the Cameroon Transport Company. There was a time when a lot of our goods were being transformed in Cameroon. The rice and semery was being shredded, packaged in Cameroon, and sent even abroad. There was a time when our coffee, we were a major exporter of coffee, the raw beans, and then eventually the dried coffee, dried and ground. We can go on and on. Roads were being built. There was a time I would travel from Yaoundé to Bafoussam to Bamenda and on beautifully tarred road. There was a time in that country when this happened. Mimi, this is our collective challenge. This is our collective challenge. We need to look at it. There's a time, I can go on, when you leave the University of Cameroon and they'll be competing. Universities around the world easily open their doors to Cameroonian graduates. Those same universities, the young Cameroonians coming out of high school, they open their doors to them. There was a time when our education, the quality of our education, was known and respected around the world. Let us know what we're missing. Let us know what we can fix. And we'll understand the nature of change that people want. And you'd understand why Mr. Tchiroma is busy today trying to figure out how we can fix that car of state, that ship of state. What all the broken parts, we need to fix them. And it may take, we want to reduce the amount of time it will take to get this country back on track. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. What depends on the people should go to the people. I've talked about the collective partnership. Some I've heard people say, "Oh, he should be talking." Why should he be talking when he should be working? There's a lot of work to be done to correct the failed policies of the past, and that's exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure that the criticisms also about too much talking is because we are just used to being in a country where people have very little information on the things that they deserve to know, the things that they deserve to be aware of. So suddenly people are so much, they are given so much information, they are given access to, even some sort of private information about things that concern them, about their leaders, that they are, I think that there's some sort of like suffocation in a positive light, because this is something that people they are not used to. They have not been seeing before. We are used to a government that has been silent. We're used to a government that doesn't speak, doesn't communicate, doesn't tell Cameroonians that these are the informations that you need to. It's like it's supposed to be begged for instead of being our legitimate rights to be informed. That's why you see a lot of people saying that, oh, there's too much talking. We are tired of the talking. Yes, we need to talk. We need to continue to have this conversation, because without information, where do we go?
yes,
How do we move from here? And you were just
right.
talking about some of the buried, that's how I'll put it, some of the forgotten infrastructure, institutions, companies that have existed in Cameroon. I can just tell you that there's a video clip that has been released by Eric Chinje, and it is really going viral on different social media platforms, where he's depicted most of these companies that existed before, working for the interest, the benefit of Cameroonians, that have simply been buried. So he was using the Michael Jackson style thriller video, and he was just showing and demonstrating for Cameroonians to see how these things existed in the past, and now they are all gone. And he also, in that very brilliant video that he's used AI to produce, we can also see that he is featuring those faces that are responsible for these failures that we've been seeing in Cameroon. President Biya, we also Paul Biya, we've seen Ayolo, we've seen Jean de Diomomo, we've seen people like Atanganji and Ferdinand Gongo. So this is actually the video. Like you can see Ayolo himself. And then you see Atanganji. So this is Eric Chinje himself. This is a very interesting video. If our technicians can just take this off our screen. Paul Biya t'envoie comme dengue. Tu commences à grelotter. Le régime te fixe droit dans les yeux. Okay, so yes, Eric, you can see that this is actually the video that I was talking about. You can see how he is using, the situation in Cameroon, using the music of Michael Jackson to actually depict that these are some of the things that are going wrong in the country. These are the things that have been buried. These are the things that have been destroyed. Some of the things that Biya came and met and didn't maintain. He didn't even bring new things into, for Cameroonians to benefit, but he ended up destroying a lot of these institutions that you've just talked about. But Eric, I wanted us to also look at this state-sponsored propaganda. We see, even I was following Project C's meeting this weekend, and you and other members were saying that the government is spending a lot of money, to put people, trolls on different social media platforms, and also get Tchiroma arrested. Can you tell us how, what does this mean? I mean, within the context of the things that are going now, to see how far the government is capable of going just to silence the truth.
Right. You've touched on key things in this question, Mimi. One of them is truth, the most important. I think what we actually see in Cameroon now is a battle between truth and untruth, truth and lies, truth and falsehoods. That's the battle that's on. Truth is total. If both sides, if the government and the Tchiroma camp were dealing with truth, it'll be single. It'll be unique. It cannot be divided because truth is indivisible. The reason there's a battle for, as I said, the soul of the country is because we're dealing with, on the one hand, people who will not accept truth, and on the other, people who are comfortable in their truths. What's the truth? Mr. Tchiroma won the elections in Cameroon. He won the presidential election. If there's a single Cameroonian out there who does not believe it, let them speak to their God and their conscience. Let them speak to their God and their conscience. Let them go into the church and the mosque and other places of worship. And in that quiet moment, question their consciences. Did he win? And then you'll understand, you'll understand what is happening in the country. We are in a deadly battle. We're in a high-pitched battle between truth and untruth. And that's it. And as long as we do not resolve that, the tensions will continue. The inability to get Cameroon back on track will continue. And our hope is that that time will be shorter. The time it takes to get back to the path of growth and development will be shorter because more and more Cameroonians will understand this game and stand up and be counted. Join the army of truth. More and more of us will join the army of truth. That's the point. And so you mentioned that, and I think it's important that you did. You mentioned security. In the case of Mr. Tchiroma, I can tell you that a lot of resources are being spent by the government in Yaoundé to find him and end his ability to lead the country. Because in their calculation, that will restore their ability to continue to run the country with the heightened corruption that we see, with the impunity of and the total disregard for the sanctity of state, of the Commonwealth, of state resources. They want to end Tchiroma's ability to govern that country precisely so as to protect what a handful of people believe it is their right, their birthright, access to state resources, the treasury of the country. So protection, the protection that an increasing number of friends of the country want to provide to Mr. Tchiroma is precisely because even they too understand that. So yes, security is a critical issue. We are not looking to have a martyr lead, a martyr is someone who's no longer, essentially is no longer there. We're not looking to have a martyr, we're looking to have a leader. And that's what we'll continue to fight for, continue to ensure his protection, and give Cameroon a chance to finally get this country working again, get us back on the trajectory of growth and development. And that's where we are in this.
Yes, also, it's important that you are mentioning all of these things because that general, feeling of fatigue that we've been seeing, frustration in people amid the, the propaganda machinery that is being put in place and orchestrated by the government, it was obvious that we were going to get to this point. It was also obvious that we'll get to the point where people feel like things are not going the way they want. And, with this frustration, people feeling disappointed, we were going to get here. And if we didn't get to this point, there would have been a lot of question marks. In every struggle, we always get to that point where people feel like giving up. And that's always that turning point, to eventually getting what you want and what you need. And many people in Cameroon would identify themselves in that position. I'm glad that we have people like you coming on board to really edify Cameroonians and speak to them. But we also saw another scenario in Bamenda when the apostolic nuncio was trying to speak to the crowd, and the people just started booing and shouting, especially when he said that President Biya. Yes,
That.
given the when you watch that video, Eric, how did you feel?
Well, it was proof again that, and it's a good thing it happened in a cathedral, in a church house, in a place of worship, that people again demonstrated better than any rigged elections could the fact that the whole Biya story in Cameroon is a lie. It's a big lie. People demonstrated that in ways that elections, they would not let elections bring out. So when I saw that, my hope was that institutions like the Catholic Church will come out fully on the side of truth. That's what I hoped for. That all, the attempt to turn these things around and change the nature of what is going on in the country at this time, that attempt will fail. Why? Because Cameroon does not deserve it. God could not have given so much to this country and then allowed it to fail so spectacularly. The reason I'm with Mr. Tchiroma is not because of Mr. Tchiroma. I'm with him because I am with Cameroon. I do not, and by being next to him, I do not see the difference between him, what he wants, not for himself, but for the country, and the Cameroon that I want to see. That's why we're in this. That's why Met Alice Nkom, from whom you'll be hearing more and more, that's why she's in this. That is why Rebecca Enonchang is in this. That is why Marie-Roger Biloua is in this, and so on. All of us, we come from different perspectives, but we have a singular intent,
yes,
and conviction that the country, one, the country deserves better. Two, we found a man around whom the country is willing to coalesce, and a man who's adopted the ideas that we need at this time, at this moment in our history. Mr. Tchiroma wants to come and clean up. We cannot have institutions that have demonstrated their their total, they've even slipped into illegality, like the Constitutional Council, like ELECAM. These are good institutions that have some good people. But we need to make them work. They are good institutions, meaningful institutions, but they do not work because we do not have the right people in charge of them. So you saw the clip of Mr. Atangana Clement celebrating that. Oh yeah, I gave you the victory you wanted. He gave the victory his people wanted. That was enough to put to question the entire process. I'm sure the leadership of ELECAM did the same thing. These are, there's something ironical here. The same people who destroyed our democratic process are the same ones, if you think about it, who've destroyed a range of public institutions in that country. They've used it to serve themselves. They've reduced the focus of these institutions. They've taken it away from what they were intended to achieve and transformed it into some self-serving unit from which they would continue to deprive the country of the outcomes for which they were intended. That is why Cameroon Airlines failed. That is why all these enterprises that we've mentioned failed, because they became self-serving institutions or enterprises. That's what they've transformed the Constitutional Council and ELECAM into. And there was no better proof of this than what Mr. Atangana Clement said when he celebrated the sham victory of his party. So, we just have to, I just want Cameroonians to know that this change that they so desire, as was demonstrated in that cathedral in Bamenda, that this change will come, the demand for change will not go away. So if those in power in Etudi right now think that somehow it will disappear, they will continue to arrest and even kill people. They'll provoke violence and blame it on Mr. Tchiroma. No, Mr. Tchiroma has been talking peace from day one. He's avoided calling for, if you know what pressure has been on him to call for demonstrations across the country, he's avoided doing that because he knows that they will lead to violence, and the violence that will provoke the death of people. And he has said it over and over. He doesn't want to see one drop of Cameroonian blood spilled to ensure that he gets to power. No, this is not about him. And I want to say it with as much emphasis as I can. This is not about him. I'm not in it for Tchiroma. I'm in it for Cameroon. Because Mr. Tchiroma and Cameroon, in their desires, are the same.
Yes.
So, I'm glad you mentioned the cathedral experience. I think it should remind us all about what we want and why we need to come together to do it and deliver on it.
And also this silence, from the side of Isach Tchiroma Bakari is being described by some people as a sign of weakness. And we have seen also pro-government supporters taking advantage of the, the situation. It's not really a situation, but a strategy, how I will call it. The government is taking, the Biya government is using it as a propaganda tool to some sort of, tell the people that, look, it's time to actually move on. What would be your response or your reaction to that, Eric?
Yes. Isn't it ironical, Mimi, that the same people who've elevated silence into a doctrine, that these same people want to complain about the silence of Mr. Tchiroma today? No, Mr. Tchiroma is not silent. As I said earlier, you'll be hearing a number of us, an increasing number of us, would try to update people as much as possible, and Mr. Tchiroma will speak when he has to. He's not gonna be some knee-jerk reaction because people say you must speak, you must speak. No, he will speak when he has to. He's at work right now. He's in touch with friendly governments. He's looking at potential investors here, there, and everywhere. He's at work, and when he comes out to speak, he'll be concrete about not only what he is doing, but what he believes we should be doing as a nation. So that's it about the silence. Mr. B has been silent for how many years? And at the end of his silences, there's nothing we saw that was a result of the reflection that should have taken place as a result of silence. That's not the case here. So on the one hand, don't complain about silence because you've elevated silence into some holistic doctrine. So don't
Right.
complain about it. But if silence does not result in positive outcomes, in issues that identify our problems and our solution, it doesn't result in that, then it's again a BIism. That's what
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
And
So
with
because we've seen
and I can tell you
so-called
the
Republican
Chiromaism,
journalists.
if we're going to call it that, will be different because when he comes out,
Mhm.
he'll be putting forth ideas and actionable points that he will invite the nation to get to. Let me go back, if you don't mind, Mimi.
Yes, sure.
The last time he spoke, he gave 48 hours to the government. And in a two-part give and take speech, he asked citizens, he said, if in 48 hours you do not have your children back, go to the jailhouses, stand in front of the jailhouses and demand the release of your people. That's exactly the way it's leader and people. The leader does this. I give you 48 hours. And if you don't have your people, the people do that.
Mhm.
Of course, the government reacted only partially. They reacted by releasing a few people as if to satisfy a handful of families that would do it. And that's not what Mr. Chiroma meant. What he meant was release all the political prisoners. And then he passed on the responsibility for the implementation of that presidential order. He passed it on to the people. Because Mr. Chiroma's only force right now is the people. That's the only force he has. He doesn't have an army. He doesn't have a treasury. He doesn't have guns that are willing to be unleashed on, on ordinary citizens, armless citizens. He doesn't have any of that. So all he has are the people. And he's not saying, go out and be violent. No, he's saying, go stand in front of the jailhouses and demand the release of your people. That's what was supposed to be next after those 48 hours. Obviously, we, the communicators, did not explain this as we should have. And obviously, people, the citizens, did not understand what part of the deal fell on them.
Mm.
So, and as you know, as we go forward, as I said, you'd be hearing from many of us, and I mentioned a few names: Alice Nkom, lawyer Alice Nkom, and Marie Roger Biloa, Abdelaziz Monde, myself, Rebecca Enonchong, and so on. You'll be hearing from us. And then every once in a while, when Mr. Chiroma has figured out a few important things, he'll come and deliver it to the nation. So that's going to be happening as we go forward. His silences are meaningful silences, and they'll be used to enhance, hopefully, come up with solutions, action points that Cameroonians need. I don't know if that answered your question, Mimi.
Yes, of course, it answers the question. Thank you so much, Eric Chinje, for joining us today. I hope that we can have another interesting conversation like this, and as soon as something comes up. But I just want to thank you so much for your time, your efforts, the marvelous job that you are doing, on the side of Isach Tchiroma Bakari and also with Project C. And I just also want to wish you a very fantastic day. Thank you,
Thank you.
Eric.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mimi. And remember, this is for Cameroon. It's Tchiroma for Cameroon. Eric Chinje, Alison Com, you name it, for Cameroon. We are
Mhm.
doing this. We're not sacrificing everything we have for ourselves. All of us, the names I've mentioned, all of the names I've mentioned are people in the later part of their lives. So
Mhm.
we're actually doing this for a country in which over 50% of the country, well over 50%, are below 35, are 35 or below. So it's for the youth, it's for tomorrow's uh, citizens that we're doing all of this, and we will do it until we achieve it. And we hope, I really hope, that everybody in Cameroon who wants to be on the side of history and on the side of truth, everybody will stand up and be counted at this time. And remember, is the last thing I'll say, Mimi. Remember, this is not Tchiroma's battle. We are not in it for Tchiroma. We're in it for ourselves, our children, the future, and for a nation that deserves more than it is getting at this time in the quality of leadership and governance. So I thank you very much, Mimi, for giving us the opportunity to say these things, and we'll try to be present every time you call, every time. You know, I've always answered your calls, Mimi.
Yes, I know that. Thank you so much, Eric, and have a
Thank you.
blessed day. Like
You
Eric
too.
was also saying, this one, because of MMI has always said this over and over again. This is beyond Isach Tchiroma Bakari. Isach Tchiroma Bakari is like the, what we can call the flag bearer. He is taking the lead, but this has to do with the nation as a whole. Before we go, I want to read this open letter from Barrister Alice Com, writing on behalf of Isach Tchiroma Bakari in a letter that was released just recently. Barrister Alice Com is calling on people on behalf, speaking on behalf of the President-elect Isach Tchiroma Bakari, calling on Cameroonians to resist peacefully against what he has described as electoral hostage situation in Cameroon. Isach Tchiroma Bakari also added that people went out and voted courageously on the 12th of October, but a faction within the state backed by the military has attempted to confiscate the will of the nation by installing false victory. He also draws parallel with Cameroon's historical democratic struggle in 1955 and 1990, arguing that 2025 marks a turning point from where or which there is no going back. He condemns arbitrary arrests of young people, secret detentions and torture of political opponents, militarization of institutions, the Constitutional Council, and ELECAM's betrayal of their mandates. Isach Tchiroma Bakari is also also calling the current situation a police state repression of a sovereign people. And despite the crisis, Isach Tchiroma Bakari is insisting that the movement must remain calm, discipline, and non-violent. Those three keywords are very important: calm, discipline, and non-violent. And he also emphasizes that the people are the true source of power, not any regime. No army can fight or defeat the people who have stood up. Those are the words of Isach Tchiroma Bakari in the latest statements. And there are also some key announcements that there is going to be a presidential press conference that will soon be made public. We heard from Eric Chinje mentioning that earlier, and it was going to be detailing the strategic roadmap that people will be seeing in the coming days. And there is going to be a launch of a popular solidarity committee to support detainees and their families. A lot of initiatives have already, been put in place, and there's also an appeal. He's also appealing the international community to recognize and respect the people's vote. So that is one of the latest statements that we have from Isach Tchiroma Bakari, sent out by Barrister Alice Com. For those who joined us from across the globe, we want to thank you so much for always being there. Your loyalty, for those who have been supporting us in private and even in public, we want to say thank you so much, and, urge you to continue to subscribe. For those who want to be members, please continue to do so. We appreciate all your efforts and all the things that you've been doing so far. God bless you, and continue to stay blessed. Until we meet again, goodbye for now, and see you very soon.